Welcome to this explainer. You know that feeling when you just absolutely crush it one day, only to wake up the next feeling totally burnt out? Well, today we're exploring exactly why your most productive days often lead to that total burnout, and more importantly, how to fix it using neuroscience. We're going to decode the physiological mechanism behind what's known as the dopamine crash trap. So let's really dive into this. Picture this. You've had an insanely productive day. You're just checking off every single box on your to-do list, right? But then you wake up the very next morning feeling completely drained, totally unmotivated, and just unable to focus. You try to get out of bed, you try to start your work, but your brain just feels stuck, like it's trapped in this heavy, foggy fatigue. Now, here is the major paradigm shift. Most of us assume this sudden wall of fatigue is just laziness or, a lack of willpower, and we completely beat ourselves up over it. But actually, neurobiology tells a very different story. You didn't just run out of character. You literally just fell into the physiological trap of a dopamine crash. What's happening is your brain is reacting to a massive shift in its baseline dopamine levels right after that period of high performance. Section 1. The molecule of drive. To understand this sudden drop in motivation, we first need to reevaluate how our brain's reward system actually functions. Okay, so the core misunderstanding a lot of us have is the myth that dopamine equals pleasure. But the scientific fact, dopamine is actually the molecule of pursuit and drive. It's literally the engine that pushes you forward. So dopamine determines how much energy and motivation you have to initiate an action, not necessarily the immediate pleasure you get from actually completing it. And this brings us to a really crucial concept called tonic dopamine. This is essentially the baseline level of dopamine that's circulating in your brain at any given time. You can think of it as your body's baseline engine for motivation. When your tonic dopamine is healthy and steady, well, you just naturally feel ready to tackle the day. Section 2, dangers of dopamine stacking. Now, let's take a look at how we accidentally destroy this crucial baseline. So, the issue usually begins with a really common habit called dopamine stocking. This happens when you try to fuel your study or work sessions by combining a whole bunch of heavy-hitting stimuli all at once. We're talking high caffeine, intense music blasting, constantly checking your phone, and endlessly seeking those quick little rewards. By piling all these things on, you're actually creating these massive artificial spikes of dopamine in your brain, just to muscle through a single task. But here's the catch. Your brain operates on a very strict pleasure-pain balance. Every single high, artificial peak you get from dopamine stocking is immediately followed by an automatic, severe crash well below your normal baseline. Your brain literally forces this crash to restore its equilibrium, so you're essentially borrowing energy from tomorrow to pay for today's massive spike. And when you stack dopamine continuously, those prolonged spikes actually cause your brain's D2 receptors to downregulate. And what does that actually mean for you? Well, it leads to a state called temporary anhedonia. Suddenly, totally normal daily tasks just feel completely unbearable. Starting even simple actions requires enormous, painful effort, all because your receptors are essentially numbed out. Section 3, the Doctor Everyday Protocol. Thankfully, the exact same neuroscience that explains this crash also gives us the cure, so we can restore our baseline and completely eliminate this destructive cycle. Enter the highly actionable 3-step Doctor Everyday Protocol. This is specifically designed to fix your motivation baseline. The 3 steps are unstocking stimuli, using the 5-minute transition rule, and applying unpredictable intermittent rewards. Let's break these down right now so you can start applying them today. Step 1 is absolutely vital. Unstack your stimuli. So during your next focus session, you really need to remove those unnecessary layers of stimulation. That means you gotta stop leaning on 4 cups of coffee and blaring music just to sit down and answer some emails. You have to learn to work in a neutral environment without a million background distractions or multiple stimulants hyping you up. Now, why is unstacking so important? Well, by separating the hard task from those artificial rewards, like the intense music or the constant caffeine, you are literally retraining your neural pathways. Your brain actually starts to learn to associate the dopamine release with the effort of working itself, rather than those external crutches you were relying on. You actually start to find drive in the sheer effort of the work. Second on our protocol is the 5-minute transition rule. Look, we all know that starting a task is usually the absolute hardest part of any project, right? And that's because your brain literally pre-calculates the energy costs beforehand. And honestly, it usually overestimates it. This is exactly what causes you to freeze up or start procrastinating. So when you feel that initial heavy resistance, I want you to commit to just 5 minutes of neutral action. Don't expect immediate results, and definitely don't look for a quick hit of pleasure. This brief 5-minute window of neutral action is literally all it takes to allow your prefrontal cortex to step in, take control, and break that initial friction that's holding you back. Moving on to step 3, unpredictable intermittent rewards. Now, this might actually be the most counterintuitive part of the whole protocol. You have to stop rewarding yourself after every single study or work session. Stop giving yourself a little treat every single time you finish a basic task. And here is exactly why. When rewards become highly predictable, they completely lose their neurological power. Your brain gets used to the hit, and suddenly it's going to demand larger and larger stimuli just to feel that exact same level of baseline motivation. You essentially build up this dangerous tolerance to your own rewards. The solution here is to keep your rewards occasional and completely varied, meaning sometimes you get a reward, sometimes you don't, and what that actual reward is changes. By doing this, you're protecting your D2 receptor sensitivity. It's this unpredictable nature that prevents downregulation and really helps you maintain that healthy, steady baseline of tonic dopamine we talked about earlier. As we wrap up this explainer, I want to leave you with a really powerful thought directly from our source material. Managing your motivation is not a matter of luck. It is a direct result of how you manage your neural circuits every single day. You are entirely in the driver's seat of your own drive. If this protocol makes sense to you, then it's time to stop the cycle of burnout and start reinforcing those new neural pathways. So I want you to ask yourself one question before you start your very next task. What specific stimuli are you going to unstack today to finally claim back your baseline motivation?